Hi, I'm Charlie, and this is Cooking with Milwaukee Community Leaders. Cooking with Milwaukee Community Leaders is available both as a podcast, wherever you get great podcasts, and on video on our YouTube channel, Cooking Secrets for Men. So today, very pleased to have as my guest, Michael Hostad. Michael?
Charlie, good to see you.
Yeah. So Michael is the Chief Revenue Officer for Fork Farm here in the greater Milwaukee area, and he's also president and co-founder of a nonprofit which is I'm very fond of called Light the Hoan, and the Hoan refers to the Hoan Bridge, which is right down the Milwaukee River here. It empties into Lake Michigan, similar to the Chicago River emptying into Lake Michigan in Chicago. But let's start where we usually start. So you were born in Hartford, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Born and raised there.
Yeah.
So you lived there until you moved later in life to Milwaukee. So talk about your early years.
Sure.
Preceding your move to Milwaukee.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I grew up in Hartford, which is a small town northwest of town here. About 8,000 people when I was growing up in it. Had a normal life. Grew up to some great parents and have an older brother. In high school, I kind of got into technology and the internet. I'll date myself here and say that when I was in high school, the internet was a new thing, and we had the whole dial-up experience and all that. And I got curious about websites and how websites are built and what these things take to get online and on the internet. And so I begged my folks to buy me a book on how to write HTML and learn how to code, and started building a website. My first ever website that I built was a website dedicated to The Simpsons. The show The Simpsons was my favorite show. And I had figured out how to record on Sunday nights when they aired. I recorded them on VHS tape, and I figured out how to connect the VCR to the computer, and I would get audio clips of Homer or Bart saying stupid
Did you get
stuff.
sued?
I got, this is how, what started as a hobby turned into this massive website with a huge following and an eventual cease and desist letter from Fox Broadcasting Company. And it was at that time that my dad was like, maybe we need to get the boy applying his skills towards something a little bit more constructive. So he was the president of the Chamber of Commerce at the time, and all of his buddies were guys that had, everything from restaurants to jewelry shops and everything. And I'm like, well, we want a website. Can your kid build us a website? So the next thing I knew, I was building websites for all these little businesses in town, and they were actually paying me to do it.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I got started. I went to building on that interest of technology. Went to school at WCTC, Waukesha County Technical College. Got 2 associate's degree, one in programming and another in computer networking, and kind of just went down the path of being a computer nerd.
Well, I don't want to date myself, which I'm going to by telling the story. When I went to the University of Maryland, and in the computer classes that I took, we used punch cards.
Oh my gosh. My mom told me about those.
Probably your grandma told you about them. So yeah, punch cards, that's great. You end up taking a job with UWM, University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, in 2001.
Correct.
And you started September 10th, 2001.
Yep.
And if you're paying attention, that's the day before 9/11. So talk about your experience at UWM, and that was a very auspicious start to a 14-year career.
Yeah. It's funny, I say that I started my job at UWM on September 10th, 2001, and my last day was Friday the 13th. So, some interesting bookends to the career there at UWM. So I was hired there to run the website. So at the time, it was just the website for the IT division for the campus, and came on board to do that. I was a department of one. And I remember in the interview asking my then boss at the time, I said, well, what's the job about? What do you want it to do? And she's like, we were kind of hoping you'd tell us, because at the time, again, it was new and they didn't know. And so I really had this wonderful autonomy to kind of build whatever we wanted to do in the division. That then led to taking on the broader role for the website for the entire campus, which led to, social media and eventually mobile app development and so forth. So we grew the department from a department of one, me, to about 17 or 18 of us when I left. And my job, and I think the reason I was able to stay there for 14 years was that they kept moving me into different things and giving me more responsibility. So it was always an interesting and new thing. I had the great opportunity was when building the website for the College of Engineering. The dean of the school at that time was a guy named Mike Lovell. Mike had come from the University of Pittsburgh and was new to campus, and we were working together to kind of redo the engineering school website. Got to talking, became good friends, and Mike's an entrepreneurship guy. He's an innovation guy.
Right.
And so he learned of my, interesting past with website development and having my own company as a young person. And as he transitioned into the chancellor role at UWM, he called me into his office one day, which scared the crap out of me.
Come see the chancellor.
Yeah. I'm like, uh-oh. So we meet in his office early one morning, and he's like, we're doing a lot of work. We're coming together to kind of build this entrepreneurship and innovation program at UWM. And he said, I'd love for you to be a part of that. Will you be my designee for entrepreneurship and innovation?
Oh.
And so I, of course, said yes. So
Sure.
I kind of had two bosses at the time. One was the vice chancellor for university relations, Tom Lujak, and then Mike as the chancellor. And just the opportunity to be coached and mentored by a guy like Mike Lovell was really took my career to the next level.
Mike Lovell unfortunately passed away earlier this year. He left UWM to go to be the chancellor or president at Marquette University.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was a great guy and taken way too early.
Yeah.
So while you're at UWM, you go to Cardinal Stritch and get your degree.
I do.
In business management.
Yeah.
So talk about what was the plan after you get your business degree.
So I came in with my associates rather to UWM, and my boss at the time, the CIO of the campus, had said, you're managing the website for the whole campus. You're sitting in meetings with, academics, provosts, vice chancellors, deans. You can't have an associate's degree. You got to have at least a terminal. You need to get your bachelor's degree. And so I said, look, I spend enough time on this campus. I was in my mid-20s at the time. The prospect of being in undergrad programs with 18-year-olds just wasn't really jiving with me. And Cardinal Stritch at the time had a fantastic adult and returning student program. And so that was the deal we made. I said, I will go back, but I want to go to Cardinal Stritch, and I want you to pay for it. And that was the deal. And at the time, I had no thought of going anywhere other than UWM in my career.
So in 2014, you leave and go to the Greater Milwaukee Committee and work for our friend Julia Taylor.
Yeah.
You were there for about 7 years. So talk about that experience with GMC and some of the work you did there.
The GMC was really an incredible experience. One of the things that towards the end of my time at UWM and in the role that I did with Mike was I got more involved in the community, and that's actually how I got to meet Julia. There was a program we were involved in starting up called Scale Up Milwaukee, which was all about taking growing businesses and getting them to grow bigger and scaling them. Found that my passion was to do great things around the community. So we had that opportunity. And when Mike left to go to Marquette, I got a call from Julia Taylor, and she said, well, let's go and grab a beer. And I'm like, I didn't even think this woman knew my name, And so we met for a beer, and so she said, why don't you come and run our innovation side of things for the GMC? And I didn't really know a lot about the GMC, what it was, or the work that they did, and so. But I trusted Julia, and I sat with Mike, and we talked about it. He's like, this is a fantastic opportunity for your career. So came on board, ran an organization or a program called Mike, which was called Innovation in Milwaukee. So you got a guy named Michael running a program named Mike. It was just meant to be, right? So we had a great time doing that. Did a lot of programming around teaching college students, young people, about entrepreneurship and innovation, and really focusing on
a continuation of the UWM.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a good fit. And we did a lot to retain young talent in Milwaukee. That was a big part of what we wanted to do. The program connected young people to startups in the area, established companies and corporations, and really got a chance to show what the community could offer to young people.
That's been a focus of many local organizations, is to retain talent in the area, is to teach them, train them, and keep them. All right, so GMC, you're having a great time there, and then you eventually get recruited or talk to the folks at Folk Farm. and then when you were at Folk Farm Foundation.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So talk about the move from GMC to Folk Farm.
Yeah, so, as I mentioned in the dish that we're going to cook, I brought my own tomatoes, right? So
Right.
I'm a gardener. I love to garden, and that was sort of my hobby throughout my time at the GMC. And there was a gentleman that reached out to Julia at the GMC, a guy named Chris Corkery, who was coming to Milwaukee from New York and was interested in building an indoor farm in Milwaukee. And which he did in Century City, a great farm called 100 Acre. He reached out to Julia and said, hey, I'm new to town. This is what I want to do. Who can I talk to? And Julia's like, well, Hostad likes to garden. Let's let him talk to this guy. And so it was great. So I met with Chris, and he told me about this technology that he was considering using from a startup that was based in Appleton at the time called Fork Farms. And he said, I'm actually meeting the founders for a cocktail later in the week. Why don't you come and join us?
Seems to be a lot of cocktails going into meetings and stuff.
It's Milwaukee, right?
It only takes 2 beers, right? Is that
so got a chance to meet Alex Tynk, who is the founder and CEO of Fork Farms. And at the time, I was very interested in hydroponics. Growing food in nutrient-infused water was sort of an interesting thing. And
Sure.
I thought, boy, this could extend my growing season into the winter, right? And so at the time, their units were made of stainless steel. They were huge. They cost $12,000, and I knew that my wife was never going to let me go for that. So it was just one of those things where it's like, well, we'll stay in touch. And so Alex and I did. And then in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, a lot of people were going hungry that wouldn't have been going hungry otherwise. And as a result, Alex's business was growing, and he reached out to me and via LinkedIn and said, "Hey, you seem to know a lot of people in Milwaukee. Can you help me find a salesperson?" When he reached out about finding a salesperson, I said, "Yeah, I'm happy to help you find somebody that can do sales. He said, if you're looking for a leadership role, I might be interested. I'd love to learn more about where you guys are at." And so for 6 months, we went back and forth, and he said, come lead sales. And I said, I'm not a sales guy. I don't want to run sales. And back and forth. And finally then he said, we've decided we're going to start a 501c3 at this foundation about how we can raise funds to get our technology into places that really need it most, food pantries, areas with high rates of food nutrition insecurity and the like. And that was music to my ears, and I said, yeah, let's do that. I had never started a foundation, I didn't know what I was doing, but that had been the theme of my career up until that point, so I decided to just lean into it. So I made the hard decision to leave the GMC, and at that time Julia was moving into retirement, and again thought it was the right time to kind of move beyond that, and so started in 2021 in November, and ran and got the foundation up and running for about a year, and now I run sales for the organization.
So you found someone who could do sales for the organization. That's great.
It turns out it was me. I love that we do a lot of work in K-12 and teach young people about what it means to grow their own food and eat healthy. I still am technically the executive director of the foundation, so I have my hands in that world as well.
All right, so let's talk about Light the Hoan.
Yeah.
So we're going to put some pictures up now that show what happens we've had Homecoming and Hoancella. Basically, I live 2 blocks from the Hoan Bridge, and I can see it, and it's lit every night.
Yep.
And it's lit with multiple colors. They go up and down. They change. Mm-hmm. And on any given night, you can go down, and in front of the Hoan Bridge, there are 30, 40 cars just sitting there watching. Yeah. And then the images that you can see right now are this event where boats go up and down the Milwaukee River. Mm-hmm. They got the big tourist boats. They've got the pontoon boats. They've got kayaks. They've got all speedboats. Everybody's got a different boat, and they just go up and down, and they end up in front of the bridge. And there's this huge light show, and there's always something at Summerfest. So there's fireworks, and there's a drone show. It's sensory overload, and it's set to music. So. Yeah. Tell us about how that got started, because I know that's a passion project, and where you guys are trying to get to next.
Yeah, so, this project started in 2015 with an idea from a guy named Dan Steininger, who happens to be the grandson of the guy who the bridge is named after, Daniel Hoan, one of our longest-standing mayors here in Milwaukee. And we never. So I say we. I mean myself and a guy named Ian Abston. Ian's a good buddy of mine. And at the time when Ian was running Milwaukee, which is a sort of a young professionals group here in Milwaukee, and I was at the GMC, we found ourselves at tables in our early to mid 30s that we probably had no business being at, But we'd sit in these meetings, and a lot of those leaders would be like, well, how do we find the next generation of community leaders and civic leaders? And Ian and I are kind of like,
well, hopefully
we're
on
right
this show.
here. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And so we thought at the time, we're like, we have all these amazing connections with established leaders in Milwaukee that for whatever reason seem to like us and talk to us. And we know our crowd of people that are emerging leaders that want to do more in the community. Let's play matchmaker here. And so we decided to create this group that we called the Hoan group because we were being cutesy and we're like, we're bridging generations, we'll call it Hoan. And our lawyers at the time were like, sounds great, but there's probably a guy you should talk to, a guy named Dan Steininger. He's the grandson of Daniel Hoan. You should just make sure he's okay with you using the name to do this. And Ian and I knew Dan, and we were friends. And so we walked into Dan's office and explained what we wanted to do, and Dan, being Dan, was like, love the idea. Let me know how I can help you. Granddad would love that you were using the name. And so as we're walking out of Dan's office, he stops us and he says, there's a project that you might want to think about as one of your first projects for this group to take on. And he told us about 2 previous attempts over the course of the bridge's history where they had attempted to light it up, and budgets, politics, whatever got in the way, and it never happened. And so he's saying, you should think about lighting that bridge. And so we walked out.
Just like that, just go light it.
Yeah, right. No big deal.
Yeah.
So we get outside of Dan's office, and the door closes behind us, and Ian looks at me, and he says, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. And I looked at him, and I said, we totally should light that bridge. And so we kind of just laughed and went our separate ways, and but it was a seed that was planted in our heads. And then, maybe a couple months later, the Bucks had drafted this Greek guy named Giannis Antetokounmpo to the Bucks, and that was a big deal. And it was like it drew ESPN to actually televise the Bucks on a night game.
Right.
And both Ian and I were watching the game, and there was this nighttime shot like from the lake facing the city, and they started from the north and they were panning south, and at the time the new NM Tower was being built in this vibrant, bright city skyline, and where it ended was facing the Harbor District and where the Hoan would be, and it was just darkness.
Right.
And then they cut back to the action at the Bradley Center, and I get a call from Ian. He's like, are you watching the game? And I said, I am. He's like, I get it now. He's like, we got to light that bridge. And so that then became this, we met weekly at Valentine Coffee in down here in the 3rd Ward, and we were just meeting regularly and figuring out 2 guys that know nothing about how to do this, trying to figure out how to light a bridge. And so that's how it got started.
It's lit. It's a beautiful thing. And it is a draw. People come down all the time, people on boats, and now you're trying to light the other side.
Yeah, so ironically, the side that we lit isn't the side that would have helped that skyline shot from ESPN. But when we got to the point of lighting the west side, the side that faced the city, we signed the construction contract to do that the week before the pandemic shutdown in 2020. And we thought to ourselves, this might be as far as we ever get, and we should just do it. So we had enough money, though, to install the infrastructure to eventually light the east side. So the money got us lighting the west side facing the city, and then all the conduit and piping and cabinet work and all that on the east side. So it was really about a $1.4 million lift to light the other side, the east side of the bridge. So we lit in October of 20, and we've been working to raise the money to light the east side since that time, and really proud to say that we're going to do it. So,
well, we're looking forward to it, because my wife and I were talking, as we take the ferry over to the Michigan side, and as you're coming in at dusk, you can see the bridge, but if it's lit, I said, that'd be pretty cool.
It would be, yeah.
So, very good with the Hoan. Love the Hoan and light the Hoan.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we call this serious people with serious jobs having a little fun. I want to give you one of our aprons.
Oh, thanks, Charlie.
Sure. So what are we making today?
We're going to make some stuffed pepper soup. This is a recipe that we just found online over the years, but we've kind of made it our own, and again, it was an opportunity for us. I would grow all these tomatoes every
What
year.
am I going to do with these all today?
I'd come into the house and I would just load up the kitchen table with all these tomatoes, and I'd say to my wife, "Look what I did." And I'd just walk out, and she'd be like, well, what the hell do I do with all these tomatoes? So we've learned over the years different recipes and ways to process and preserve tomatoes and other vegetables too. And so this is a great soup in the wintertime. It's a hearty soup, but we can use the tomatoes that we've grown during the summer, so you kind of get that taste of summer, and it frankly uses up all the tomatoes that we have in the basement.
All right, so we've done a little prep work.
Yeah.
We're going to go back to the kitchen area and start cooking this soup. So give us a minute. We'll be right back. All right, so Michael, take it away.
Thanks, Charlie. So what we're going to make today is a stuffed pepper soup. I love this recipe because it allows us to use the tomatoes that we've grown in our garden. So I brought my own.
Those are your tomatoes.
Those
right
are
there.
our tomatoes
Okay.
right there. So this is easy to pull together. It's really pretty simple. We'll start with some olive oil here in a hot pan and toss in some ground beef and get that going to kind of simmer that up. We'll brown it up, and this comes together in 30 to 45 minutes with all the simmering that it needs, and that's why it's a great sort of weekday meal that we've created and do regularly.
Right. So this is about a little over a pound of ground beef.
Ground beef, but this is when we can sort of spice things up. We've got all sorts of options here. I'm going to add the crushed red pepper since we're talking about it.
Yep.
This is where you can kind of have some fun with it. We always try different seasonings. I've kind of gotten into this Kinder's seasoning here. This is actually a steak blend, which actually works very well in this soup. And what do we got here? We got some black pepper.
Add a little pepper. We're not really measuring, but let's say it's a teaspoon, tablespoon, something or other.
Yeah, this is
we're guys.
This is how I exactly right. Like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. When you make it regularly,
so that was thyme.
That was thyme.
Okay.
And what else we got here? Some sage. Let's do some sage, and then we'll finish. Whoa, that was a lot of sage.
And you need
some salt.
All right. Put a little salt over here.
All right. Do all of that.
Oh, you can smell it.
Yeah.
All right. Meat seems to be browning nicely.
So, we're going to add now the veggies. What makes this stuffed pepper soup here? Obviously peppers.
There's a chopped a green bell pepper.
Green bell pepper. That's about a cup or so. Same with just a white onion here. Add that in. And you want to cook this for maybe, I don't know, a good 5-7 minutes, just until the onions get a little translucent and things cook down. The soup's going to simmer for about 30 to 45 minutes, so everything's going to cook up nice. You brought garlic too, Charlie. I'm going to do a little garlic.
All right. Music to my heart. I put a little garlic in. There's no such thing as too much garlic.
Exactly. So, we'll just start here.
Okay.
There we go.
We've got a little bread that we're gonna put in, and as the soup is simmering.
The last two pieces that kind of pull all this together is three pieces, I guess. Some tomato sauce, which out of a can, or if you're,
that's just plain old tomato sauce.
Plain old tomato sauce.
Okay.
And it's a hearty soup, and this time of year with the cold weather we've been having, it's a good soup. One of those soups that's like actually better the next day, I think.
It's actually really cold. It's not Wisconsin cold. It's really cold.
It's really cold. Yeah.
Wisconsin cold is 20s and 30s.
Right.
No big deal.
Right. Yeah. But
we're below that.
This is like Arctic cold here these days. So these are the tomatoes from our garden.
From your garden at home?
Yeah, from our garden at home.
And
these
you
were
save
from
them?
the summer.
Yeah. Okay.
And then last but not least is some beef broth. And again, if that's not your jam, you can use chicken broth or even vegetable. All right, so that's basically our soup. Now the key here is we let it simmer for 30 to 45 minutes, and then we eat.
All right, so we're going to let this simmer for about a half an hour or so.
Yeah.
Then we're going to check it. Then we've got to put some rice in as it thickens, and then we've got the bread, and then we're going to sit down and eat it. So
absolutely.
Give us a minute.
All right.
Be right back.
Yeah, so we've been simmering this for about a half an hour, 45 minutes. We've got a good kind of low boil here. We can probably even turn this down. But
Okay.
The next step, and really the last step, is adding some rice. If you want, you can of course cook your own rice. If you're lazy like I am,
We're guys.
we're
ready
guys,
rice.
right? Ready rice, 90 seconds in the microwave. Toss this guy in here, and we'll mix it up here in just a minute. And then we've got soup that's ready to go.
All right. So get the rice in. It'll absorb a little bit more of the liquid.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we got the rice. We've got all the veggies and the ground beef.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go ahead and put this together. We've got a little bread to serve with it. So give us a minute. We're going to sit down and give her a taste.
Awesome.
All right. We're back. So, Michael, tell us what we got here.
We have a stuffed pepper soup, Charlie. So we've got some ground beef in this. We've got some fresh, at one time, tomatoes from the garden last summer. Of course, peppers, onions, and some rice.
All right. And we also have some
bread.
Some nice bread warm.
Yeah.
And a little bread and butter. So, we have an audience. So, you guys want some bread over there?
Please.
Pass it over to them.
You guys
But pass it back because we want some. All right.
Oh, all right. Charlie, bread.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
I'm assuming you guys want butter too?
I don't.
Okay. Well, I want butter.
Yeah, that's the best part. There you
Dunk
go.
it in the soup.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just take a little butter then. Won't be. All right.
Here we go.
Give her a taste.
Let's dig in. Thank you.
Hot.
Yeah, it is hot.
Delicious. Nice seasoning.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, it's an easy meal to do on a weeknight. And this is one of those that's better like the next day, you know? All the flavors marry together in the refrigerator overnight.
So, do we have a name for this year's Hoan celebration?
Well, it initially started as Hoancella.
Right.
Until, you know, once again in my career, another cease and desist letter
Oh, I didn't know that.
from the people at Coachella.
Oh, really?
They were very nice about it, though. They're like, we love what you're doing. You just can't call it that. So,
Oh, really?
so Homecoming became the new name. So it'll be Homecoming again, and probably for the time going forward. But you know, we're looking at what we can do to really highlight the East Side and
Right.
and kind of explore that and show folks what it's like to have a fully lit bridge finally.
Homecoming will have everybody, instead of being inside of the bridge, will be outside,
outside.
inside the break wall, watching from there. Oh, that's really
Well, and that will have, frankly, more room. I mean, it was pretty tight with all those boats
yeah,
in
it's
there.
a little, it's a little dicey with the little the kayaks down there, and now the big boats.
I said, I'm like, what is our insurance for this? Because,
That's a go at your own risk. So
yeah.
I was gonna say, before you take another bite,
Yeah.
thanks for coming.
Charlie, thanks for having me. This has been
Appreciate
great.
it.
Yeah.
Love hearing about work in the community. We
Yeah.
talked about Fork Farm Foundation.
Yeah.
Like the Hoan, your work in the community has its morphed over the years to really take into account a lot of the things that help people on a daily basis. And Like the Hoan is pretty cool. So,
Thanks
So
again,
thanks.
Charlie.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
so I appreciate everyone's support. Please like and subscribe. And until next time, see you then. Thanks for listening to another episode of Cooking with Milwaukee Community Leaders. Cooking with Milwaukee Community Leaders is brought to you by Cooking Secrets for Men, LLC, and was recorded in the 3rd Ward in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We feature and profile community leaders who are trying to make Milwaukee a better place. The tagline is, serious people with serious jobs having a little fun. Our guests choose the recipes that we use on the show. All of our podcasts are available on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get great podcasts. The original YouTube video for this episode is available on our YouTube channel, Cooking Secrets for Men, all rights reserved. Thanks, and see you next time on Cooking with Milwaukee Community Leaders.